Hello, everybody. Before I start, just to kind of get a sense of who's in the room, how many of you are current students? Okay, and then prospective students that are starting next year? Okay, great. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the NBC Universal Campus to Career Internship Program. I specifically support NBC Sports, and because we are local, I'm going to highlight some of those opportunities. But I can speak to opportunities across all of our businesses. They're all great, and maybe something that you want to pursue in the summer months. But for fall and spring, we do have opportunities. So those of you that are current students, I'm going to highlight some of those fall opportunities as well, because our posting is up now. And if I say something that maybe sparks your interest or you do want to pursue an internship with us, you can go home and apply today. So I'll talk to you a little bit more about our program. Before I do that, though, I want to give you a very brief overview of the company. So in 2011, NBC Universal became a joint venture between GE and Comcast. So those were both of our parent companies. The plan was for Comcast to buy out GE's stake in the company over about 7 years. But Comcast was a really great marriage with NBC Universal and believed so strongly in the partnership that they accelerated that plan and bought out GE shares in February of 2013. So now Comcast is the sole owner of NBC Universal. So before Comcast came into the picture, this is what we looked like. So NBC Universal already had a really diverse portfolio full of cable properties, the Peacock, which you may know NBC as, also digital properties, and it was a really robust portfolio. But with the Comcast merger, they brought along with them some cable properties as well, and they'll start to pop up on the screen there, like Fandango, Sprout, some of our sports properties that now roll up to the NBC Universal portfolio. So now it's an even more diverse, robust portfolio than it was before. So it's a really great marriage, like I said before, between the two companies. So a little bit about our Campus to Career internship program. We recently rebranded as Campus to Career, and the reason is because it is truly a pipeline program. So many of our interns get hired after graduation, and very similar to the experience that Tim was highlighting before, if you do a good job and you take advantage of everything that the internship has to offer, someone's going to take notice, and when they have a spot in the entry-level space, they're going to think of their interns first. So it's a really great way to get your foot in the door. It's a really great way to kind of test out the industry and see if it's a fit for you, and also kind of test drive your career. I'm seeing now a lot of the resumes. People are getting internships earlier and earlier and earlier, so freshman year is not too early to start thinking about it. I'll tell you a little bit more about our requirements. We do only consider students that have completed freshman year, so even though you can't apply as early as freshman year, it's great to start thinking about all the things you can do to make yourself an attractive candidate, and I'll tell you some of those things that we're looking for because it's becoming so competitive. And I'll read it to you word for word because I think it's great. This is our mission statement. Our goal is to attract and recruit the most talented and diverse college students to our various businesses, so all the businesses you saw on the slide before, to build a great pipeline of entry-level talent. And we firmly believe that a competitively paid internship program is the best way to achieve this mission. So all of our internships are paid. The hourly rate varies, but the average is about $10 an hour. We really believe that the best way to achieve this mission is through a paid program, and because of that, it has become more and more competitive over the years. Supervisors, because they are paying, are being a little bit more selective in who they want to hire, and we are finding really great talent, so we're really excited about that. To give you a quick overview of our program, what you'll get out of it is real-world experience, and you'll get exposure. We are one of the world's leading media and entertainment companies in development, production, and marketing of entertainment and news, and I'll talk more about the sports division in some of the later slides. We have interns in the building year-round, so fall and spring are a great time to be considering specifically NBC Sports because it's in the area. The applicant pool is a lot smaller than summer because in the summer everyone or a lot more students are willing to relocate. But in fall and spring it's going to just be those that are local, so you can be more selective. If you're a great candidate and you have a really great phone screen, I, as the recruiter, might say to you, here's a couple opportunities you're good for. Why don't you tell me what you want to be considered for? And that happens all the time in the fall, specifically. So I would really encourage you to think about fall and spring. The summer program is fantastic as well. It's just a lot more competitive, and you can't necessarily be as selective because we have so many candidates that we're looking at. The fall program, I'll also say, for sports, we are we have the most sports being broadcast at that time. Summer's actually a little bit slower for us. So it's a really great time to be in the building because we're working on a lot of stuff, and our interns get so much hands-on experience because all of the staff is really relying on them. So definitely consider fall if you are a current student and you are looking for an internship with us. It's a great program. But going back to the overall program, we are spread across the East and the West Coast. On the West Coast, for those of you that may be thinking about summer opportunities, we have opportunities in Universal City, Burbank, and LA. More of our film divisions are based out there, so if film is something that you're interested in, that's definitely where you want to look. On the East Coast, we have opportunities in New York, Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, and Stamford, Connecticut. In Englewood Cliffs, we have our CNBC business, so financial news, if that's of interest to you, that is close. It may be something you want to consider for summer. I don't know if it's a commute during the fall and spring semesters, but definitely not so far that it's impossible. In Stanford, we have NBC Sports, which, like I said, I'll go into more detail, but we also have a fantastic production facility, which I think is actually within walking distance. I'm not totally familiar with the area, but fantastic production opportunities there, PR opportunities. They work on shows like Springer and Maury and all those daytime talk stuff that you probably watched when you were sick home from school. So if you're interested in production and might be interested in working on one of those shows, that's really close and also a really great option for you guys for fall and spring. So just to give you a sense of the size of our program, we have about 200 to 350 interns on each coast per semester. So there's a ton of opportunity. For NBC Sports, it's about 30 a semester. And for the production facility, I'd say it's between 30 to 40 every semester. So that's a lot of opportunity in this area. In addition to the internship assignment, there's a ton of stuff that we're doing throughout each semester that interns can or cannot take advantage of, and most of them do. So not all of it is mandatory. The only one that is orientation, but we provide a bunch of workshops to give you guys all the tools and give our interns all the tools that they will need when they go to apply for that entry-level job, because like I said earlier, we want to hire our interns and we want to make sure they are prepared when the talent acquisition team, which is our staffing team, gives them a call and says, hey, I noticed you were an intern, I want to consider you for this opportunity. We'll tell you how to do your resume the NBC Universal way, what we're looking for. We'll talk to you about your brand, whether it's your online brand or your professional brand in person. We'll talk to you about professional essentials, everything from time management and what it really means to be like a polished professional. So we'll put on events like that throughout every semester. So it's a really great thing to take advantage of in addition to the real hands-on experience that you get. So I'm actually going to go through them really quickly. Orientation, like I said, is mandatory. We give you all the tools you need to be able to get paid and all that fun stuff throughout your internship. We'll also talk to you about what we expect of our interns and what to expect from your supervisors, things like that. The first thing we do every semester is an intern kickoff event. We are a big proponent of connecting interns across businesses. We really want our interns to be able to reach out to someone, let's say they're at NBC Sports, at Bravo, and really get a sense of what they're doing. So you won't even necessarily just be learning about what it means to be an NBC Sports intern. If you explore and you reach out to other interns, you can find out what it means to be an intern in a ton of different departments and businesses within NBC Universal. So the kickoff event, which stands for Keeping Interns Connected, is sort of like our welcome. It's usually fun. We usually do like icebreaker games, feed the interns. So it's a really great event. Throughout each semester, we also do industry insights. So we'll bring executives from various parts of the business to talk about what it is they do, and that way you can also get some insight into other areas that you may not necessarily be interning in. Last summer we had really cool people come speak. We had our CEO, his name's Steve Burke. We also had some talent. We had Brian Williams and Matt Lauer come talk about their path, so that was pretty exciting for us. So it's a really great way to learn about their story and how they got to where they are, and then also what they do. Like I said earlier, we'll work with you on your resume. That's probably our most popular workshop. We'll go through, resume sections and what are kind of the do's and don'ts, and we'll talk to you about how you can improve yours, and interns actually bring their resume and workshop it in the event. We do Brand Yourself, which, like I said earlier, is talking about your online presence for the most part. Professional essentials, again, like I mentioned before, we'll talk about, it's almost like corporate 101. What are all the tools that you need to be that polished professional? In LA, they do a tram tour, so you get to go through, I actually just went out there and did it for the first time, so I can actually speak about it and actually know what I'm talking about. So it's really cool. You get to see some of the studios, and it's the tour that you can do when you go to the parks, but they do a private one for the interns. It's really cool. We also have the PAGE program informational. Do any of you guys, by show of hands, know what the PAGE program is at NBC Universal? Thank you. So it's a really prestigious, and it's been with NBC for about 80 years. It's a great program, and it's a great entry-level program that a lot of our interns graduate into. Their acceptance percentages are insane. I think what they say is they're statistically harder to get into than Harvard or Yale because they have so many applicants. But it's a great entry-level rotational program, and our interns get to apply through a pipeline that's separate from the general applicant pool. And that's just one example of a program that you can apply to as you approach graduation, that as an intern you have that advantage to be in the building, meet all the players, and apply through that pipeline. So that's also another great opportunity. Something that I like the most about working at NBC Universal is the culture and the fact that people really encourage informational interviews at all levels. So we encourage our interns to do them, and I do them as well. So if you want to learn more about what somebody does, you can reach out to them and say, I'd love to set up 15 to 20 minutes. It's not the same as an interview for a job or an opening, which is a more formal interview. This is more about you asking questions with industry professionals to figure out, is that something you might want to do? And everyone at NBC Universal is really open to having those meetings with interns, and everyone is really invested in the internship program at all levels, and you can feel that as you see them meeting with interns and doing these informationals. It's a really great environment. And lastly, we connect our interns with the talent acquisition team, which is the full-time staffing team. So they're in the building, they're going to get a chance to meet with them. Mostly the seniors are the ones that we try to set up formal interviews so that they can, tell them what they're looking for as they approach graduation. But they're just great people to know as you start to apply to those full-time jobs. You'll already have those relationships, and what a lot of our interns learn is that relationships and your network is the most important thing as you start to, grow your career and start your career. So we'll really give our interns a lot of opportunity to meet those professionals and to start that network. So what does it mean to be eligible for our program? I'll go through the requirements. You have to be in pursuit of a degree. It can be an associate, bachelor's, or a graduate degree. And we'll ask for you to verify that enrollment throughout the process once we hire you. So we just ask that you are pursuing a degree. You have to be a current class standing of sophomore or above, but what that means is as soon as you finish your freshman year, that summer you're eligible. You must have, and we are pretty strict about this, it is a hard rule, not 2.9, cumulative GPA of 3.0. So for those of you that are prospective students, or those of you that are thinking about future opportunities, and maybe if you're not at that 3.0, start thinking about that because it is important that you do have a 3.0 to be eligible for our program. You have to be 18 years of age or older and authorized to work in the United States. Preferred qualifications are previous internship experience. Like I said earlier, we are finding that the program is becoming more and more competitive. So any experience that you have, we want to see that on your resume, and that includes stuff on campus. So if you write for the campus newspaper, we want to see that. Anything that you feel like would be relevant to the internships that you're applying to, we want to see it. And anything you don't tell us on your resume, we don't know. So don't assume that you're going to get the call and you can explain that in the interview. We want to know every skill, every program, every opportunity that you've done, and keep it to one page though, so figure that out. But we want to see that so that we are, prompted to call you. So it's not required. A lot of the time people have work experience and, they waitress or they do things that aren't necessarily exactly relevant, but that'll tell me that you work with customers and you can potentially be in a client-facing role. So anything like that, we want to see it. And basic knowledge of Outlook, Excel, and Word. Some of that may be obvious, and a lot of the time, students don't put that on their resume because they think everyone knows Word. You'd be surprised how many people don't, which we find sometimes the hard way. And also, Outlook is a big thing because we use it throughout the company, and it's kind of hard to get acquainted to. So when I first started in my first entry-level job out of college, I didn't know Outlook, and I didn't tell anyone, so I tried to figure it out and had to send a meeting request and didn't know how. So those are the kinds of things, if you can start to look into that and figure out what it means to be in Outlook and how to do those little tips and tricks, I would encourage you to start thinking about that now. It'll help you get acclimated a lot quicker when you're not worrying about how to figure that out. So I just wanted to highlight, I keep saying I'm going to highlight sports, so now I will. NBC Sports just moved out to this area about a year ago, last June, so it'll almost be a year. And the facility is absolutely beautiful. I'm stupid, I should have put a picture of it, but I'll just tell you. It's absolutely beautiful, it's state-of-the-art, it's brand new. It brought all of our different divisions within NBC Sports into one building, so it's really collaborative. It's a great environment if you want to work in a team. And it's just overall a great place to be, and everyone really loves what they're doing, so you can like almost feel that energy. They have a great commissary and a Dunkin' Donuts in the building, which I'm very excited about. So it's really a great place to work just physically. But so in addition to that, the types of internships that we have at specifically NBC Sports, range across all functions. So I'm hiring interns for marketing, production, communications, and then all the way to engineers. So, and I'll talk about digital specifically, but so no matter what you study, there's probably something there that is a fit. It's just up to you to kind of do the research and think about what those opportunities might be for you. But I will say our digital space is really, really growing, and there's a lot of opportunity there in the full-time space, but also in the intern space. So it's a really great time to be part of that. And as we try to figure out how to make money in that space, it's a really great time to be part of that as well, because we value the intern class because they're bringing a perspective that maybe some of the more senior employees don't have because they didn't necessarily grow up in this digital age. So this is a great place to be. So I will say a couple things about NBC Sports as a whole. If you're going to pursue an internship there, it does help if you are passionate about sports. I'd say everyone in the building, for the most part, is really passionate about sports, and also not knowing the content and not knowing the sports that we broadcast will really put you at a disadvantage. Even myself being in HR, I have conversations that are related to HR and interns or any other rotational program, and they'll talk about Premier League, and if I don't follow that, it's like going over my head. So I've started to follow all the sports that I didn't even follow before I started this job. So I would encourage those of you that are thinking about this to just, even if you're not passionate about every sport, just know what our sports are, because we're not necessarily an ESPN. We do have football, but a lot of our sports aren't mainstream and aren't the most popular. So, look into our dog shows and things like that. So I would say that those candidates that do come prepared to the interview with information about what we put out there really impress me. So I'll start with that. But specifically in the digital media space, we have a ton of opportunities, and I'll actually go to the bottom. We have two huge digital properties, NBCSports.com and NBCOlympics.com. Like I said, they're growing, and we have a lot of internship opportunities in both of those divisions. We also have opportunities in programming, web development, marketing and promotions. Our marketing team sort of operates like a mini agency, so anyone that's kind of thinking about well, first of all, anyone that has skills in Avid, that's a huge plus. But anyone that's thinking about, those promos and those spots that you see on our network, and how are those strategically placed, and what kind of audience are they trying to target? Our interns actually work on putting those together. They're in Avid, and they're cutting the clips, and they're working with our team. Like I said, almost like an internal agency. That's how they operate. Some of the skills that, and I started with Avid, but I'll go through the list that we really value in this space. Photoshop, that's a big one. Avid is huge. I know a lot of students don't necessarily start in Avid, and something like a Final Cut is great because you can probably learn Avid more quickly, but just so you know, that is what we use, so the more you know, the better. Final Cut, like I said, is definitely something that will also work, and desktop publishing, web content management. All those things are not requirements for every opportunity, but going back to what I said about the resume, the more skills you have, the more unique you'll be from the next candidate, right? So my one tip, and we talk about this in our resume workshop, but I'll say it now, is if you don't have a skills section on the bottom of your resume, you're doing yourself a disservice, because recruiters will scan down there and look for the minimum qualifications right away. And if you haven't laid it out for the recruiter, we may overlook you when you may in fact actually be a great candidate, but because you didn't list them out and you just assume that because you said that you do nonlinear editing, that means that we understand you have Final Cut. It doesn't. So if you don't have one, I would highly recommend that you add a skills section, especially with this digital stuff, because everybody's learning all these new, computer languages and, like I said, softwares and programs. The more that you know, the better, and also the more that you tell us up front, the more likely we are to give you a call. So with that being said, I will tell you how to apply. Like I said, maybe for those of you that are prospective students, you might not want to go on the website right now to apply, but you can go on to kind of learn more about opportunities across all of our divisions. Our website is www.nbcuoncampus.com, and from there, you can look at all of the opportunities, and the way that we set it up is by function. So it'll say production opportunities, editorial opportunities, marketing, communications, and it'll give you sort of a basic understanding of what we're looking for in a candidate pursuing those types of opportunities. And then it also goes a step further and tells you some typical career paths for interns that start, or for interns that start in that specific function and then move on into full-time opportunities with us. So it's a really great website, even if you're not going to actually apply, to kind of get a sense of what's out there. The specific job number for fall for sports is listed up here. So you guys can write that down, but it's also really easy to find once you go to that website, but I wanted to put it there for reference. I will say the earlier you apply, the better. For fall, we don't actually start really submitting resumes and conducting all of our phone screens until about June. But if you're not in there when we go in the system in June, we're going to overlook you. So it can't hurt to be in there now, but also just to give you a sense, our recruiting timeline won't start until about June. And finance and accounting internships, although we do have them in NBC Universal, they actually go through our parent company's program, Comcast. So if you're interested in finance and accounting opportunities, that's a separate application, so I've put that there as well. And there are placements, like I said, in NBC Universal, but it's a different set of requirements, it's a different application, so just be aware of that if that's something that you might be interested in. So I don't know how much time we have. I have a slide for questions, but I think we're doing a panel, so maybe it makes sense to wait. Or should I open it up? What do you think? Yeah? Okay. Does anyone have questions? Maybe something I didn't cover or that you want me to go into more detail? I did a really good job, so no one has any questions. Is that what you're telling me? Yep, one more.
What months would you say should you start applying for like the summer?
So summer we start in January. I had actually a lot of instances where great candidates were reaching out to me up to like yesterday and last month, and we had already placed all of our interns at that point. I will say that in terms of like when the deadline or when it closes the application, that really, really varies because it'll stay open until we fill every spot. So the reason I say the earlier the better. In January, I'll go in there to look for summer, and some supervisors will be really on top of it, and they'll make their decisions. They'll interview candidates and make the hire by the end of January. But then some of them will be busy with the Olympics, and as was the case with last semester, and they're kind of having Olympic hangover and not getting back to me, and then that might take a little bit longer. So that's why our timeline is really spread out, because we have all these different supervisors kind of operating on their own schedules based on what they're working on. But I will say we do have a hiring deadline every semester where we tell them they have to make a decision by that time, but usually for summer it isn't until about a month ago. But I had filled sports a couple months ago. So the earlier the better. That's why we say that.